News Talk 1070 KHMO presents On the Mark with Mark Hespin.
Ew.
News Talk 1070 KHMO presents On the Mark with Mark Hespin. On the Mark is powered by Kunis Country Honda Hyundai, your number one Honda and Hyundai dealer in the tri-state area at 221 North 36th Street, Quincy. Faith, family, and giving back. That's Kunis Country. And now, here's Mark Hespin.
Good morning, Tri-States, and wherever you may be listening on the News Talk 1070 KHMO app. This is On the Mark. I am Mark Hespin. Welcome on in episode 218 of On the Mark, the first episode of 2024 on this Saturday, January 6th, broadcasting live and local here from our KHMO studios in Quincy. You can always reach out to me through the On the Mark KHMO Facebook page. You can follow me on X, on Instagram, on YouTube at Mark Hespin, MarkHespen. I try to make it easy for you all. It's the same on every single thing. YouTube, Twitter /Instagram /X. All of that is just at Mark Hespin, MarkHespen. Welcome on into the show. Oh my, oh my, oh my. We've arrived week 18 of the NFL season. Games today, games tomorrow. I will just tell you right now, if you are tuning into the show to hear me talk about Jokic hitting half-court game winners or Connor Bedard being an absolute rookie stud, I apologize. There will be none of that. I got no time for that today. It is all NFL with a slight very end preview and prediction for the national championship game, which shout out to Michigan and Washington. I'm really excited for that game on Monday. So we're talking all NFL, a little bit of preview there at the end for Michigan and Washington. Normally what we would do is I would start the show, all football season I've done this, and kind of like, oh, here's the one story I want to talk about in Hespin Headline. And then Hespin Headline number 2, I would break down all the games, every single game. Well, let's face it. About 4 or 5 days ago, we started all seeing that they were sitting Patrick Mahomes, and they were sitting Lamar Jackson, and they're sitting Brock Purdy, and they're sitting Matt Stafford. Everyone's getting sat. Even Joe Flacco's getting sat. So I decided to change it up here a little bit. Hespin Headline number 1, I'm going to break down the 4 AFC games that are really, really important, that really, really matter. And then in Hespin Headline number 2, I'm going to break down the NFC games, the 4 NFC games that really matter. And I have an AFC game that is my lock of the week. I have an NFC game, that is my upset of the week. And I will tell you, I can't thank you all enough for gambling with me all season. If you have gone with every one of my locks and upsets with me, then we are officially locked in at an above 500 season. 18, 15, and 1 on the year. 18, 15, 1. Even if I go 0 and 2 today, that'd be 18, 17, 1. It means I made you money this year. Made myself a little money, but I made you money too if you're gambling with me. Let's waste no more time. Let's jump into it. Hespin Headline number 1.
Hespin's Headlines on the Mark.
The AFC games that matter. And the first 2 ones are the big ones, and they are happening on Saturday. Saturday is like the huge AFC slate, and then we get, the AFC big games on Saturday, and then the final game on Sunday night. So let's jump into it. Pittsburgh at Baltimore. That is the first game of the AFC games I'm deeming that really matters. And it is a big one for not only the fact that it is the second best rivalry, in my opinion, in the NFL behind Bears-Packers, but it is extremely important for the legacy for Mike Tomlin, for the Pittsburgh Steelers trying to make it into the playoffs. The Steelers at the Ravens, Baltimore and Pittsburgh are meeting up here for the final time this season. And what I'm really looking forward to in this game is the fact that Pittsburgh has decided. They went ahead and they decided that we are going with Mason Rudolph. Sorry, not Kyle Rudolph, the tight end. Mason Rudolph, and we're not going back, right? We've made the change to Mason Rudolph. We're all in on Mason Rudolph, and he is going to be our guy. Kenny Pickett is healthy enough to play, but Mason Rudolph is the guy. And I think that's a really important thing for Pittsburgh Steelers fans because obviously if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, Kenny's the guy you drafted as a first-round quarterback last year. What star quarterback a guy who's got his job guaranteed, if they're healthy in a must-win game, doesn't get the start? I guess that's Kenny Pickett. I think this is a message that Pittsburgh's sending. What if Pittsburgh wins and then gets into the playoffs? You got to keep riding with Mason Rudolph. And at what point does that just send the message that Pittsburgh is going to be in the quarterback market this offseason? I think they're already sending that. As far as the game itself, Baltimore is the underdogs, a +3. But, Pittsburgh favored by 3 in Baltimore. Baltimore is not starting Lamar. But listen, Tyler Huntley in Baltimore, you can't sit everyone, right? That's the thing, is you're going to have starters who have to play for the Ravens. This is a really good Ravens team. They don't need an excuse to just want to beat on their rival and keep Pittsburgh out of the playoffs. Can Mike Tomlin muster up some magic with Mason Rudolph? The Steelers offense has been moving the ball really well in the last 2 weeks with Mason Rudolph. I like Pittsburgh in this game. I think Pittsburgh wins. And one of the reasons I like Pittsburgh is that, listen, Baltimore, they are obviously not playing for anything. They have the 1 seed locked up. So as soon as if Pittsburgh comes out with their hair on fire and they go up 14-0 or 10-0, something like that, it's just one of those games where human nature takes over, right? And the starters that are playing for Baltimore, eventually, you start to tune it in a little bit, right? Turn it in, and you phone it in, and you start protecting yourself, not wanting to get injured. Another storyline is T.J. Watt, 17 sacks, looking to become a sack leader for the 3rd time in his career in the NFL. So I think you're going to see a really highly motivated Pittsburgh Steelers defense. They are going to want to try to make some sort of a statement. Mike Tomlin will have his guys up and ready to go in the rivalry. Pittsburgh's playing for everything, and Mason Rudolph is playing for maybe the starting job for the Pittsburgh Steelers come next year, which is crazy to think about. Maybe it's an open competition when they head into camp with Kenny Pickett, or maybe Pittsburgh is going to be all in on the quarterback market. One of the big storylines, underrated storylines coming into the offseason for the NFL. I'll take the Steelers to win in Baltimore in what ends up being a close game. I think the Ravens scrap and they claw and they stay in it till the end, but I'll take the Pittsburgh Steelers to win 24-20 in a close game at Baltimore. Steelers win, but do they advance? Well, we'll get to that later. Texans at the Colts. This is a win and get in game. The loser of this game can still make the playoffs based on a lot of different scenarios, most of which include ties and rooting for ties. Listen, this is a win and get in game. You just got to look at it in that way. Texans at the Colts. Of course, the Colts are home underdogs, 1.5 underdogs, and I think that's a fair line. I think that's the way it should be. My gut says the Texans are going to win this game. My head says the Texans are going to win this game, and my heart wants the Texans to win this game. Does that make sense? Both teams are absolutely playing with total house money, right? Both teams had seasons that were so beyond our expectations, especially the Colts, with the fact that they are without their starting quarterback, who they've been without since week, 3 or 4. The rookie, Anthony Richardson, we haven't said his name in months, that they drafted number 3 overall. And for them to be putting on this type of season, this type of performance, Shane Steichen absolutely should be in the finalists for Coach of the Year. But so should the guy across the field, and DeMeco Ryans. The Houston Texans earned the number 1 pick last year. Remember, it wasn't until week 18 that the Texans and Lovie Smith gave away the number 1 pick to the Chicago Bears, forever altering both franchises for the better. The Texans were a disaster last year. They get the coach right. They get the quarterback right. DeMeco Ryans brings in some veteran guys like a Jimmy Ward to that defense to help fix and bring in set the culture and the tone. And look at what the Texans have done. It has been extraordinarily impressive. My gut says the Texans will be able to score on the road, and that the Texans defense, Will Anderson's been playing lights out the last couple weeks, will be able to get at Gardner Minshew, make him make a mistake. And my head says that C.J. Stroud is going to make the big plays he needs to make, and he's the better quarterback. And my heart wants the Texans to win this game, because there's something about the idea that C.J. Stroud, the rookie in the playoffs, is just a really exciting and enticing thing. So I'm going with the Texans over the Colts to win in a really fun game, an explosive game, a high-scoring game, 27-20. Texans take down the Colts. Texans advance to the playoffs. Jags at the Titans. Listen, Will Levis and the Titans, he's going to be questionable. The Jags, they need to win, but if they don't win, they need a Pittsburgh loss, a Denver loss, an Indy and Houston tie. No tie, excuse me, meaning one of them has to lose that game, and they could still get into the playoffs. So the Jags have a couple different avenues to get here. But the Jags, by the time they play on Sunday, will know basically the biggest thing for them is Pittsburgh, right? If Pittsburgh wins, it's for the Jags. It's basically like, you got to win. You got to win to get in, because then you're rooting for a Denver loss, but you're going to be playing at the same time as Denver. You'll have already known if Texans or Houston's tied or not, and so your fate will be completely in your hands. You'll have a win and get in for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And listen, the Titans, I think, are going to put up a heck of a fight. They're at home. I think Tannehill probably will end up getting the start. This could be the last game of this version of the Titans with Tannehill, with Derrick Henry, maybe even, who knows, with Mike Vrabel. Not that they would fire Mike Vrabel, but the rumors I'm hearing is that Vrabel himself might want out after this year, just to, change the scenery and, good couple of years, let's move on. And so I listen, this Titans team's not going to go anywhere. And this Jags team, they looked good last week. It was kind of a helpful breathe, get right game, but it was without their star quarterback. Trevor Lawrence is back. Can he lead his Jags to a victory at Tennessee? I think he does. I think it's ugly. I think he plays well down the stretch, though, with his legs and makes a play in a motivated Jags team that knows they win, they're in. I'll take the Jags over the Titans in a really ugly, close, nail-biter of a game for Jags fans, 20-17. They take down the Titans in Tennessee, and the Jags win the AFC South, and move on. Finally, the AFC East. The Bills at the Dolphins. The winner takes the East. This is the final game of Week 18, the final regular season game of the NFL schedule. The Bills started the season. What a roller coaster. That Monday night game against Aaron Rodgers where he pops his Achilles. And then you think, oh, man, the Bills are going to win this game by 40. And Zach Wilson leads the Jets to a victory over the Bills. That seems like a lifetime ago. It really was. And here we are now. The Bills can win and get in. Now, if all things go according to this, the Bills will need to win to get in. If Pittsburgh wins, so the Bills are in a situation where if Pittsburgh wins and Jacksonville wins, they are going to need to win and get in, Buffalo. And so it's crazy that Buffalo, the winner of this game, if it's Buffalo, could go from the 2 seed. If they lose, they're out. It's a wild thing to think about. But listen, they've been playing really solid football as of late. Yes, I know there were ugly wins against the Chargers and the Patriots. I'm not worried about that. Overall, the Bills have done everything they need to do to get themselves to this moment in time right now, where they get to take on the division rival, the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins have been limping into the playoffs. They've locked it up. No matter what happens, they're in. And the Bills can take control, once again, of this division, control their own destiny, become the number 2 seed in the AFC, and barring a maybe an upset over a team over the Ravens, could end up hosting the AFC Championship game. I think the Bills understand that. I think Josh Allen understands that. Josh Allen, I'll talk about it later, I think got snubbed with the Pro Bowl. I'm all in on the Bills. Not only am I all in the Bills just in the picks, it is my official lock of the week. Bills minus 2.5 at Miami. I've been talking about the Bills beating Miami for over a month now. I'm not backing down. I'm not backing away from it right now. I love this. I love this game. I love this matchup. I cannot wait for Sunday Night Football, Bills versus Dolphins. It will be, I think, a phenomenal game. And I think the Bills are going to end up winning it in an absolute shootout. Josh Allen makes a play late, leads his team to a victory, 33-27. Bills take down the Dolphins, win the AFC East. Josh Allen, crown him. Cover a Madden, Pro Bowl snub. I think he has an MVP level performance Sunday night. And the Bills will go into the playoffs with a boatload of momentum. A boatload of momentum. And honestly, less pressure than they've had in the years past, because it'll be like they squeak in, but they somehow end up with the number 2 seed. It's a dream scenario for the Bills if they can find their way to a nice victory Sunday night in Miami. It's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough, but I think they can do it. When we come back, we'll break down the NFC games that matter, including the whole of the NFC South and the best rivalry in football, the Bears and the Packers. We'll get to it. My picks, my thoughts, and all of that next. Listen On the Mark, News Talk 1070 KHMO and the KHMO app. On the Mark is brought to you by Cunis Honda Hyundai, your number one Honda and Hyundai dealer in the tri-state area, 221 North 36th Street in Quincy. Ask about that lifetime powertrain warranty on new and used vehicles. Tell them Mark sent you.
1070 KHMO.
Welcome on back to On the Mark here on News Talk 1070 KHMO and the KHMO app, brought to you by Kunis Honda Hyundai, your number one Honda and Hyundai dealer in the tri-state area. Over 3,000 new and used vehicles to choose from. That's what separates Kunis from every other dealer in the tri-state area, because Kunis has the network of dealers. They can get you a car from anywhere within the network. You say, well, it's Kunis Honda Hyundai, Mark. I'm looking for a new Jeep or whatever. Don't worry. Kunis has got you. Shop online. Go to shopkunis.com. I got my truck from Kunis. It's not a Honda or a Hyundai. It was at another one of their locations. I found it on shopkunis.com. They got it for me down at Kunis Honda Hyundai here in Quincy the next day. Test drove it, made a deal, walked out of the dealership. It was incredible. I mean, just incredible. Shopkunis.com. Over 3,000 new and used vehicles to choose from in the network of dealers. That's what makes Kunis so special. All right. Welcome on back to the show. Let's jump into it. Hespin headline number 2, the NFC games that matter.
Hespin's headlines on the mark.
All right, the NFC games that matter. Let's start with the Vikings at the Lions. Now, the Lions can win, and if they win and the Eagles and Cowboys both lose, well, then that locks up the 2 seed for the Lions. Now, that is unlikely in the sense that both the Commanders who are playing the Cowboys are trying to lose badly, and both the Giants who are playing the Eagles are at this point where you feel like they're also trying to lose, right? They're trying to improve their draft stock. And if you're the Eagles, yeah, you're playing at the same time as the Cowboys. And so the NFL is trying to make sure not one of those teams, screws up, because they can still jump each other for the spots as well. If the, Cowboys lose, Eagles win, there's still some scenarios that can happen with some of the seeding there. But so all 3 of these games, Lions, Vikings, Cowboys, Commanders, Eagles, Giants, they're all fairly meaningful in the same way, but I think it's more meaningful for the Lions in the sense that they feel like a team that's going to come out and just want to make a statement. They got really, really embarrassed against the Cowboys in the way that game ended. They're angry with the NFL. They should be. They got a game stolen from them that they deserve to win. And so I think you're going to see the Lions come out and play a really, really efficient, solid football game, run the ball, dominate time of possession, get in and out of a home game in front of their crowd, kind of pumping up the crowd, beating down a divisional opponent who's starting Nick Mullins, and get themselves primed for the playoffs. So I like the Lions in that game. But again, I think it's going to be interesting. You have the fact that the Lions and Vikings are a noon game. So if the Lions, they won't know what the Eagles and the Cowboys are doing yet. So the Lions, I think, are going to come out and play to win the game. I also don't think Dan Campbell is the type of coach that has it in him to not try to win a game. Does that make sense? Like, tanking and Dan Campbell don't seem to go hand in hand at all. So I think it's an important game for the Lions. I think it's an important game just for them to get their mentals right, for them to try to go out there and lock up the 2 seed. I think they want that 2 seed. So they're trying to win last week and deserve to win. And that's, again, why the game against the Cowboys is such a bummer. If the Lions didn't get screwed over by the refs and won that game, which they did, well, then the Niners would be playing for something. The Lions would be playing for something. The Cowboys and Eagles all 4 of those games would be now extremely meaningful. At this point in time, the Niners have the 1 seed locked up, which they wouldn't have if the refs didn't screw over the Lions. And now you have 3 games that are kind of like, I mean, yeah, they matter, but do they really? All 3 are in the playoffs, and it's kind of like they're all playing opponents that are trying to lose, and it really killed a lot of momentum for Week 18. That could have been 4 really meaningful games at the top of the NFC playoffs that we got screwed out of because of a horrible, horrible NFL officiating that stole a win from the Lions. Let's move on. The NFC South games. Obviously, those 2 games matter greatly, and they're both at noon. Atlanta at New Orleans, Carolina hosting Tampa. So let's start with the fact that if Tampa wins, they lock up the division, right? Tampa wins, they win the division. Now, the Saints can still end up in the wild card with a win and some things that go their way. But the Tampa wins, it's a win and they're in. So that's obviously got the most meaning. And then for Atlanta and New Orleans, they're both going to be playing for the fact that if whoever wins that game will win the division if Carolina can pull off an upset over Tampa at home. Let me start by saying this. I don't think Carolina's pulling off the upset. I really don't. I think Carolina is an absolute mess. They're a disaster, and they couldn't even move the ball against a Jags team and stop a Jags team with C.J. Beathard last week. I don't think you're going to be able to stop a Buccaneers offense that is highly motivated to come out and lock up the division after a really embarrassing loss to New Orleans last week. I like the Bucs a ton in this game. I like Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans to have a big game to lock up the division. And I think you're going to see a team that wants to get out early, get a big lead, and then rest their guys and make sure they're healthy. So I think the Bucs are going to go out and blow out the Panthers. And I don't really think that eventually what's going to happen in Atlanta versus New Orleans is going to matter. I will take New Orleans in the game against Atlanta because Atlanta cannot move the football. I mean, they had to go back to Desmond Ridder last week, and Taylor Heineke was terrible in the snow against Chicago. It was an embarrassing effort from Atlanta. They can't get the ball into the hands of their weapons to save their lives. They are the most quarterback-needy team maybe in the NFL. It's embarrassing what's going on with Atlanta. So I'm going to take New Orleans to win that game and put themselves in a position to where they can maybe seek into the playoffs depending on what happens, but also be ready to take the division if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers somehow fall to the Carolina Panthers. And then finally, my upset of the week. You knew this was coming. It is Bears-Packers week. We haven't talked Bears versus Packers since week 1. And the Bears are going to Lambeau Field. The Bears are underdogs to the Packers. The Packers win, and they are in as the 7th seed in the playoffs. And the Packers are 3-point favorites at home against the Chicago Bears. I love the Bears +3 in this game. I love the Bears outright. I love the Bears. I love the Bears +5. I think they win, and I think they win easily in Lambeau. I really, really do think they win easily in Lambeau. This Bears defense has been playing lights out. They have been playing absolute lights out. They are a team that offensively has found their groove in the last 2 weeks, especially against Atlanta. They had Justin Fields under center. They had him doing play action. You have DJ Moore, who got snubbed in the Pro Bowl. You have Justin Fields, who's not only playing for his Chicago Bears career, you have Justin Fields, who is playing for his NFL career to stave off Caleb Williams and all the other quarterbacks who are trying to come for that number 1 overall draft pick. I think this is a massacre. I think this is as ugly as it's going to get for the Green Bay Packers. Listen, the Packers will know pretty much by this point in time whether they have to win or get in. The Packers have some scenarios where if they lose, they can still make it depending on if Seattle loses and all these other things, right? I think the Packers will be in a win and get in scenario by this point in time. The pressure will be on. I think they're going to fold under the pressure. I really do. They're a young team, and this is a Bears defense that is playing with their hair on fire. This is a Bears defense that leads the league in interceptions. They are looking to avenge that week 1 loss in Chicago. I think the Bears win. I think the Bears ball out. I think the Bears win easily, 27-17 at Lambeau. Justin Fields, 2 touchdown passes, 50-plus yards rushing. I think Justin Fields even rushes a touchdown in. I think he has an all-time game, 220 yards passing, 2 touchdown passes, a rushing touchdown, 50 yards rushing. I think DJ Moore goes off, has a touchdown catch, 100-plus yards, 5 or 6 catches. And I think this is a defense that eats the Packers alive. I really do. And I'm not saying that just because I would never not predict the Bears to win this game. I think the matchups work for Chicago in this. If Luke Getsy can call a similar game plan against this weak Packers defense as he did against a very good Atlanta defense last week, play action, under center, slants, get Justin, quick reads, hit the back foot, drop, throw. I really think the Packers are in for a lot of trouble. They're in a lot of trouble. I really do. I firmly believe that. And I cannot wait to watch this football game. Cannot wait. So there you go. That is my lock of the week. I have the Bills minus 2.5 clearing the Jets. And my upset of the week is the Bears plus 3 at Green Bay. Gamble with me. Let's go 20-15-1 on the season. Let's go 20-15-1 on the season. Who said it can't be done? Not me. Not me. I'm saying it can be done. You're listening on the Mark News Talk 1070 KHMO and the KHMO app. When we come back, so I've gone through now some of these key games. So I will now go through, pick all these games on the ESPN playoff machine and tell you my predictions for what I think is going to happen in the NFL playoffs, as well as I'll give you my kind of Pro Bowl snub list and why I think there's really only one name you have to talk about when you talk about the snub of the Pro Bowl. And I hope that the All-Pro team rights the wrong of the Pro Bowl snub. We'll get into all of that next. You're listening on the Mark News Talk 1070 KHMO, the KHMO app, brought to you by Cunis Honda Hyundai, your number one Honda and Hyundai dealer in the tri-state area. 221 North 36th Street in Quincy. It's all about that lifetime powertrain warranty on new and used vehicles. Tell them Mark sent you.
Today, more than 6 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's, and more than 11 million family members and friends serve as their caregivers. While researchers are working tirelessly to end Alzheimer's and all other dementia, the number of people living with Alzheimer's is expected to more than double by 2050. The toll of the disease is monumental, and its devastation affects family, friends, and especially caregivers. No one should face Alzheimer's and dementia by themselves. If you or someone you know is struggling to provide care to a loved one, please share this message. You are not alone. Free help and resources are available 24/7. To talk with an expert and obtain disease-related information, care and support services, call 800-272-3900 or visit the Alzheimer's Association website at alz.org. You are not alone.
From the Salvation Army, welcome to Heartbeat.
Our sun is just one among more than 1 billion stars in our galaxy. One of these stars alone, the Pistol Star, could contain 1 million stars the size of our sun within its sphere. And our Milky Way is not even a huge galaxy. Our neighbor, the Andromeda Spiral, contains about 400 billion stars. Scientists estimate that there are billions of galaxies, each containing even more stars. Scripture tells us that our Creator, God, determined the number of stars and that He calls them each by name. Not only can God count them, but He has named them. The Bible says that He also knows you by name. Do you know Him?
For more episodes of Heartbeat, visit salvationarmyradio.org.
When you're high, you feel different. Pretty obvious, right? You think different, talk different, but if you feel different, you drive different. So if you're high, just don't drive. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Here's your weatherology forecast from the News Talk 1070 KHMO Weather Center. A slight chance for snow changing to rain showers with fog in spots early today. Otherwise, cloudy skies expected. Highs level off around 38. Northwesterly winds around 5 miles per hour. Currently 32.
Welcome on back down the Mark here on News Talk 1070 KHMO and the KHMO app. Brought to you by Cunis Honda Hyundai, your number one Honda and Hyundai dealer in the tri-state area, 221 North 36th Street in Quincy. You got to ask them about that lifetime powertrain warranty on new and used vehicles. It's the No Fear lifetime powertrain warranty. And just tell them Mark sent you, 221 North 36th Street in Quincy. All right, welcome on back to the show. So now we've gotten through kind of the 8 big games, the meaningful games. There's other games that are happening this weekend that it's not like there's garbage. Some of the other games are going to be fun. Like, I think the Jets and the Patriots is an interesting game. There's intrigue in there. What will happen? Will Bill Belichick win and will he keep his job? Will he stay on top? The Browns versus the Bengals. How are the Browns going to be? They're a really hot team right now, and now they're going to sit Joe Flacco, against a division rival in the Bengals who aren't playing for anything anymore. There's some interesting other storylines out there. Obviously, Seattle versus Arizona. Seattle needs to win to get in, have a chance to get in and to get some help. And the Rams versus the Niners, we get Carson Wentz versus Sam Darnold, a dream quarterback matchup 4 years ago. And so there's some interesting other games out there. I'm not saying it's all blah, but obviously the ones I wanted to spend time on were those kind of 8 key games. So let's jump into it. I've gone through it all. I got on the ESPN playoff machine during the break. I picked every game. And this is how I see it breaking down. In the AFC, I have the Baltimore Ravens obviously being the 1 seed. They locked it on up. I have the Ravens losing to Pittsburgh this weekend. And that means the number 2 seed is going to the Buffalo Bills. I have the Bills, as you know, my lock of the week, beating the Miami Dolphins. And they will be hosting the number 7 seed, Houston Texans. I'm taking the Texans over the Colts. So I want to talk about an awesome first-round matchup. You get the young C.J. Stroud, the up-and-comer, get to go on the road to Buffalo in the cold against a guy who has just been playing absolutely lights-out football recently and will be doing so, I think, in order to get his team into the playoffs against Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills. Houston at Buffalo, 7-2 seed. It is a great game. I have, obviously, Kansas City locked into the 3. Everyone should, because they are locked into the 3. I do have the Chiefs, actually, I think, losing this week to the Chargers, mainly because I just don't believe in the Chiefs' backups at all. I think they're really going to phone it in. And I think the Chargers playing a little life. Easton Stick, they're going to actually be, their backups have been playing recently. And so I think they're just going to be ready to go. It's in L.A., so why not? So the Chiefs end at 10-7 on the season. And I have them hosting Miami in a 6-3 matchup, which will be an electric matchup. No reason why the Dolphins couldn't go into Kansas City and upset the Chiefs. The Chiefs have not looked right all year. So I think that's a matchup that I want to see. I'm predicting will happen with Miami losing to Buffalo. Miami falls to the 6. Kansas City's at the 3. And I think that's going to be an electric, fun matchup. And then I have Cleveland locked into the 5th seed, and they will be in Jacksonville taking on the 4 seed. I have Jacksonville winning against Tennessee, as you know. And so Jacksonville takes the 4, and they host Cleveland. That is my prediction for the AFC. The Baltimore, the 1, 7 seed. Houston beats the Colts. They take on Buffalo, who beat the Dolphins. Dolphins lose to Buffalo. They're going to go on the road to Kansas City. And then the Browns at 11-6 will be at Jacksonville, 10-7. Those are great matchups. Those are really great matchups. Besides Buffalo beating Houston, I think the other 2 are a coin flip. Absolute coin flip. You can convince me either way. In fact, I would argue the road teams should be favored against the home teams in the 6 versus 3 seed and the 5 versus 4 seed. I really do. I think Miami should be favored over Kansas City. And Melissa, Miami can score. Kansas City can't. And then the Cleveland Browns might be the hottest team in football. And they're going up against a Jacksonville team that will back their way into the playoffs. And so it's going to be, those are kind of the matchups I'm hoping for, right? Those are things I'm hoping for. And I'm rooting for. And I'm predicting. And in the NFC, obviously, San Francisco gets the bye, first overall seed. And then I have, because the Bears are going to beat the Packers, I have Seattle, the 7 seed, at Dallas, the 2nd seed. I think Dallas will win against Washington. Washington's not trying to win. I think Dallas will start their starters, get out to a good lead, and then rest them and take care of business. Dallas, the 12-5 seed, hosting Seattle, the 9-8, 7 seed. Seattle's going to win against Arizona to give themselves that chance to get in, hoping for a Green Bay loss, which they're going to get this year, just like they got last year again. I think it's a deja vu for the Seattle Seahawks. And I think that'll actually end up being a pretty interesting game. Seattle at Dallas. Seattle can score with Dallas. The problem will be which defense shows up. Dallas will be at home, so they'll be the heavy favorite because Dallas has been better at home this season than they've been on the road. They're a great home team. They're a bad road team. I have Detroit winning, locking up the 3 seed, and hosting Matt Stafford and the Rams, who I think are actually going to beat the Niners in San Francisco. The Niners are going to sit everyone, right? And I think that Carson Wentz is going to come out with Sean McVay, and I think the Rams team is going to ball out with Carson Wentz. I think Carson Wentz can have a fun game. I'm kind of really interesting to keep an eye on that Rams versus Niners game during the late window. Because I think that is going to be a fun, odd Sam Darnold versus Carson Wentz I'm excited for it. I think the Rams are going to win. They're going to get to 10 wins, and I think they are going to go to Detroit. Listen, I think this is a nightmare matchup for the Lions. Matt Stafford in Detroit with a chance to upset the Lions. That's going to be the game to watch week 1 of the NFL playoffs on the NFC side. That's going to be the game on the NFC side. You know, obviously Miami, Kansas City will be the star power on the AFC side, but Los Angeles at Detroit, that is going to be a must-watch game. Absolute must-watch television for the NFC side. And then Philadelphia wins. They take care of the Giants. They get the 5 seed, and they play the Tampa Bay Bucks, who I have winning the NFC South with a win over Carolina. And it is kind of an odd rematch of 2 years ago with an old Tom Brady team and that Tampa team that hosted Philadelphia and beat a young Jalen Hurts team when Philly was the up-and-coming team. And so I think that's what you're going to get again. These two teams know each other, and I think it'll be a really good matchup. I think it'll be a really close game. I'd actually like Tampa in the game because I don't trust Philly at all. But and I think it'll be a really interesting, fun game. So that's what I'm picking. That's what I'm predicting. And these are the matchups I actually hope for. I think they're the best matchups. The only thing you could argue is that would Green Bay at Dallas be what the networks want? Yeah, I get why the networks want Green Bay to win. And so then you get Green Bay at the Cowboys. And that would be a really marquee, giant brands, fun matchup. Either way, I think Dallas wins against Seattle or against Green Bay. And I actually think Seattle could put up a better fight just because they're a more veteran team. I think a young Green Bay team with all that pressure going to Dallas would just get I think they melt under the pressure. I think they're going to melt under the pressure week 18 against the Bears at home. So that is my official playoff prediction. All right. Before we put a button on NFL talk, and we are coming to that point in time here, we're going to move on and we're going to wrap up the show here with a little NCAA championship game preview. So before I put a total button on the NFL talk, I do want to say this. The Pro Bowl rosters came out, right? And while, yeah, I think there's some snubs. You know, TJ Edwards, my linebacker from Chicago, DJ Moore, wide receiver from the Chicago, I believe should be Pro Bowlers. I think they earned it this year. They both had incredible seasons. DJ Moore's best season as a pro. He has been absolutely lights out. He's been phenomenal. There's only one real snub. And there's only one thing that I really, truly hope and believe will get corrected when the all-pro rosters come out. I've been on this rant before. If you've listened to the show, we're on episode 218. This ain't the first time I'm talking about the Pro Bowl. Well, we're in year 4 of this show. You know my feeling on the Pro Bowl. The Pro Bowl, I appreciate now that they've gotten rid of the game and they just kind of named the rosters. It gives it a little more credence to it. The fact that, Mitchell Trubisky could say he's a Pro Bowler, it's a joke. Like, right, by the time you get to the 8th alternate, Tyler Huntley was a Pro Bowler last year because you get to the 8th alternate, right? They need to not give the alternates the title of, they're an actual Pro Bowler. They shouldn't be able to distinguish that. But also the Pro Bowl is so fan contributed. It just feels wrong when you look at it. You're like, none of this makes a ton of sense, right? It just doesn't feel 100% right. And so I just want to make this statement. Josh Allen had a better season than Patrick Mahomes. And if Josh Allen beats Miami, which he will, and I'm predicting he will, Josh Allen will end up with the 2 seed, a higher seed than the Chiefs. He will have beaten the Chiefs, right, in Kansas City, beaten Patrick Mahomes head-to-head. And depending on how it goes down, Patrick Mahomes not playing Week 18, Josh Allen playing for his life, he will end up with more passing yards probably than Mahomes, right? And even if let's even eliminate what happens this week, right? And just through 17 games. He has less than 300 yards difference in passing, okay, than the 2-time MVP in Mahomes. They both have 27 touchdown passes. He has 2 more interceptions. Who cares? There's 2 more. It's not a drastic difference. But Josh Allen has 15 rushing touchdowns. Mahomes has none. Think about that. They have the same amount of passing touchdowns. Mahomes has 0 rushing touchdowns. Josh Allen has 15. Tied for second in the league behind only Christian McCaffrey, tied with Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, we talk all the time about his rushing touchdowns and how much it matters to his game. Josh Allen is a freak. Josh Allen, I felt this way, is a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. He's been this way for the last 3 years. In my opinion, he's still a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes. They're the 3. The fact that Josh Allen is not a Pro Bowler ahead of Patrick Mahomes, that's kind of laughable, right? Mahomes has had a down year. He's still the number 1 quarterback in the league. But that doesn't mean he should be the all-pro starting quarterback. And I truly hope that if the NFL and the writers and the people who vote for the all-pro, they get it right. And in my opinion, the top 3 quarterbacks in the league this year for the all-pro teams, especially the fact that you have, I think Josh Allen's about to win himself a division and get the number 2 seed. And I think he's going to ball out against Miami. Lamar Jackson has been the best quarterback in the NFL this year. I think he's number 1, all-pro, first-team all-pro. Josh Allen should be second-team all-pro. And then I would argue Brock Purdy, or Patrick Mahomes, whichever you want, go for the third-team all-pro. But Josh Allen has had a better season than Patrick. He's not the better player overall. Patrick has had a better career. Patrick right now I would take over Josh Allen. But he's had a down season. And people just love to hate on Josh Allen for some reason. The dude is a freak, a genetic freak, a physical freak. He's a good dude. He cares. He wears his emotions on his sleeve. He balls out. Yeah, he creates some turnovers, but he's doing things in those turnovers that Mahomes can't do. 15 rushing touchdowns and 27 passing touchdowns. Josh Allen deserves to be a Pro Bowler. Josh Allen has carried this offense. The Chiefs are scoring 22 points a game. The Bills are scoring about 27 points a game. Yeah, I think his rushing touchdowns matter. I think they do. You're listening on the Mark News Talk 1070 KHMO, the KHMO app. When we come back, we're talking college football championship.
1070 KHMO.
Welcome on back to On the Mark here on News Talk 1070 KHMO and the KHMO app. Brought to you by Cunis Honda Hyundai, your number 1 Honda and Hyundai dealer in the tri-state area, 221 North 36th Street in Quincy. They are the best. I'm telling you, I'm so excited to have Cunis Honda Hyundai back with us in 2024. We're going to be doing some special things with them, including some broadcasts from Cunis Honda Hyundai. We'll do the show there, get the guys involved. I know they listen, so we're gonna scrap it up with them and get some of their thoughts and opinions and all this great stuff on the air. I'm beyond excited, and they really are the best of the best in the tri-states. If you're looking for a newer used vehicle, 221 North 36th Street in Quincy, stop on by. Start off 2024 in a new ride from Cunis Honda Hyundai. You won't regret it. All right, we're going to wrap up the show talking a little Michigan with Washington for the national championship game. Listen, Michigan-Alabama was an all-timer in the Rose Bowl. It was a phenomenal game. And I thought Texas-Washington was really good, really entertaining. The way it was coming down to the fact that Texas was able to hang in there and scrap and claw, and the fact that they had a chance to win that game late would have just been heartbreaking for Washington when Michael Penix just played a fantastic game. But I think this is a game that if you would have told us 2.5 months ago, it's going to be Washington, Michigan, I don't think any of us would have been too surprised by that. I think people started doubting Washington late in the year because they were getting into close games against teams that we just kind of knew they were better than, even though Michael Penix was balling out the whole way. And I doubted them. I certainly picked Oregon to upset them in the rematch, but that's just the way that Oregon's was physical and playing big. And Washington has handled everything that people thrown at them. I just don't know if Washington is ready to handle the physicality and the size of Michigan. It is going to be absolutely crucial for Michigan to sack Michael Penix Jr. Michael Penix Jr. has been sacked 11 times since he's been at Washington. Caleb Williams was sacked like 42 times just this year alone at USC. Michael Penix Jr. has an ungodly ability to avoid the sacks. It's not like he's playing in front of Alabama's offensive line. He doesn't have the best offensive line in the country. He is extremely still mobile in the pocket, really light and quick on his feet, and an extremely quick decision maker. Michael Penix Jr. should be a first-round pick. Now, I don't know how high we'll go. I'll tell you this. If he puts on the type of performance against Texas and does that against Michigan, he could go all the way up into being the second or third quarterback taken in the draft. I don't know if he'll be the first, because I think what you get with Caleb Williams is the untapped potential of a Mahomes-like talent. And Penix isn't that. But what Penix is quickly becoming is like, oh, no, this guy's ceiling is like, his floor is like, oh, you're getting Jared Goff. Like, you're getting smart, you're getting accurate, you're getting mobile enough, and you're getting like, oh, this guy can absolutely improve a bad team and with a really good roster around him, be a Dak Prescott or more. Like, he's starting to feel like a surefire hit, right? Like, he's not going to be a bust. And that has extreme value in the modern NFL where all the rules favor quarterbacks. So can Michigan get at Michael Penix? I think they can. I think they can enough. And I think the back end of Michigan is better than Texas's back end. And listen, J.J. McCarthy and the Michigan offense, they're so big and physical up front. I think Blake Corum has a big day. I think they feed him. They run the ball well. I'm going to take Michigan over Washington in an all-time great game. I don't think this is a blowout. I think it's a really fun back-and-forth game. I think Michigan has a drive late, and then I think Washington has a chance to win it, and Michigan's defense shows up. I really do. I think that's how it ends. I think Jim Harbaugh wins a national title for Michigan. I think the Michigan Wolverines end the drought. I'm going to take the Wolverines in an all Big Ten, welcome to the Big Ten, Washington victory over Washington. 30-27, go Michigan. Thank you so much for making me a part of your Saturday mornings. Always follow me on Twitter, on X, on YouTube, on Instagram, at Mark Hespin. Follow the show on the Mark KHMO on Facebook. We'll see you next week for a playoff edition of On the Mark on News Talk 1070 KHMO and the KHMO